Good day. Today is, what is today? February 4th, 2025, and it's a Tuesday. Hello, CJ, Sister Jeannie, and CW. Hello, Greg and Rebecca and William. Haven't seen William in a while. Hope you're okay, William. Let's see, who else? Maria, Michael and the Lineweber family, the Stevensons. Oh, Maron Nami, and et al. So we're going to continue with more about the debt and the money, and I'm getting an inkling to get through this book quickly so I can get back to the website, because that is really most important in these soulful times that we live in. But I did want to get through this so I can help people to try to understand what we should have as far as a monetary system. All right, let's say a good day rising prayers. In nomine Dei, Matronam Nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Let us place ourselves in the presence of the Most Holy Trinity, and in Catholic contemplation, humbly venerate the Divine Family. Most Holy and Venerable Trinity, one Divine Family, I believe that Thou art here present. I venerate Thee with the deepest humility. I render to Thee with my whole heart the homage which is due to Thee. O Most Holy Trinity, I firmly believe that Thou art three divine beings in one divine family. Dea Matronam Nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. In relying on Thine infinite goodness and promises, I hope to obtain pardon of my sins, the help of Thy grace, and life everlasting, through the merits of Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Matronam Nostrae. O Most Holy Trinity, I love Thee above all things with my whole heart and soul, because Thou art all good and worthy of all love. I love my neighbor as myself for love of Thee, and I forgive all who have injured me and ask pardon of all whom I have injured. Let us thank the Most Holy Trinity for the many graces that we receive, and offer ourselves and our sufferings up to heaven and for the souls in purgatory. Oops. O most Holy Trinity, I most humbly thank Thee for all the favors Thou hast bestowed upon me to the present moment. It is again thanks to Thy bounty that I should live to see this day, and I desire to employ it solely in Thy service. I consecrate to Thee all my thoughts, words, actions, and sufferings of this day. Sanctify them, that there may be none that is not animated by Thy love, or that would not tend to Thy greater glory. Let us make a firm resolution to avoid evil and to do good, and let us beg of the Most Holy Trinity the graces which are necessary to us. O Most Holy Trinity, Thou knowest my weakness, and that I am unable to do anything good without the help of Thy grace. Deny me not Thy grace, O Most Holy Trinity, proportionate to my necessities. Give me strength to avoid everything which Thou forbiddest, to practice the good which Thou hast commanded, and enable me patiently to bear all the trials which it may please Thee to send me. O Dea Matronam Nostrae, I place myself under Thy protection. I throw myself with confidence into the arms of Thy compassion. Be to me, O Mother of Mercy, O Mother of God, my refuge in distress, my consolation in suffering, now and at the hour of my death. O Most Holy Trinity, as envisioned by Saint Lucia as the most holy Trinitarian Theophany, Dea Matronam Nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, I am heartily sorry for having offended Thee, and I detest all my sins, because I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell, but most of all because I have offended Thee, who are all good and deserving of all my love. I firmly resolve, with the help of Thy grace, to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. In nomine Dei, Matronam Nostrae, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Okay, the money issue. In 1907, a money panic occurred, which many believe to be caused by deliberate international gold shipments, which depleted bank reserves. You can bet your bippy that it was deliberate. As a result of the damage caused by this money panic, the people of our nation and various politicians agitated for monetary reform. Paul Warburg, who immigrated from Germany to our country in 1902, was an officer of the banking firm of Kuhn, Loeb and Company, and proposed a great central bank in the European tradition. Okay, again, this is the Jewish money interests. Okay, they wanted control. Congress established a monetary commission to study this proposal, and many of the commission's reports can now be found in the Senate and House documents of that period. And again, remember, when you are in a state, not in a state of grace, you are blinded to the intentions of many of these men. And I say that tongue in cheek, because they're really wolves. In 1909, the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution establishing the income tax was proposed and supposedly ratified in February of 1913. There is some question as to whether or not it was actually ratified, and it probably really wasn't. But everything is deception and trickery and lies. The amount of lies that people submit themselves to is unbelievable, especially now, these days. The income tax was a conditioned precedent for a fiat currency system. Between 1909 and 1913, the plan for the proposed central bank took shape, and the Federal Reserve Act establishing the private, non-federal Federal Reserve System of banks was passed in December 23, 1913. The Federal Reserve Act, as sold to the American public by its proponents, gave the outward appearance that the money trust was being destroyed and replaced by a government agency which would operate for the benefit of the people. Again, deception. Who is the father of lies? The people were defrauded because the act did not dethrone the money trust, but in fact granted vast and unknown powers to it. Kind of like what's happening now with the new president. Okay? You have to be able to see through. Okay, you see, okay, well, he's doing some good things here, but what's ultimately happening behind the scenes that aren't for our benefit? You have to watch that closely. Private groups have always desired to have the power to provide currency to a nation, and this act, in fact, gave Congress's power to issue legal tender treasury notes to a powerful private financial group of men. The Federal Reserve Act established 12 privately owned Federal Reserve banks whose stock was to be owned by the member banks. These 12 private regional central banks comprised the system now known as the Federal Reserve Bank. And there's something to that number 12 as well. The only public attribute of this system is that it is controlled by a 12-member board of governors, 7 of whom are appointed by the President of the United States. The system is totally private, having only a few titular public heads. The financial powers that sought and obtained this legislation desired a privately owned system with enough public facade, which gives the deceptive appearance of government authority. Again, deception. If somebody is acting in any sort of deception, they're not to be trusted, that you shouldn't deal with them, you shouldn't have them in your nation, period. Not only does legislation disclose the private nature of this system, the federal courts have recognized this fact. See Lewis versus the U.S., 680, Ninth Circuit, 1982. The original act authorized the issuance of Federal Reserve notes, which were to be redeemed in lawful money of the United States according to 12 U.S.C. 411. And 12 U.S.C. 152, prior to its appeal in 1994, defined lawful money to be gold and silver coin. And again, we learned that the only reason that gold and silver was money was because men decided to make it such. You can make it out of tally sticks. Therefore, the act called for specie redemption of such notes. The fact that such notes were redeemed to be obligations of the United States shows conclusively that Congress's power to issue legal tender treasury notes derived from its power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, was given to the system. I'm going to read that again. The fact that such notes were deemed to be obligations of the United States shows conclusively that Congress's power to issue legal tender treasury notes derived from its power to borrow money on the credit of the United States was given to the system. Because the Federal Reserve Act conveyed this very substantial congressional power to a private banking cartel, the question arises concerning the constitutionality of this legislation. It is not necessary to consider the infinite numerous transactions of the system, such as its open market operations, discount operations, and flagrant abusive, tortious manipulations of the reserve requirement ratio, since the only crucial link to Congress's power to issue legal tender treasury notes is the fact that the Federal Reserve notes are obligations of the United States, payable back to the Federal Reserve. Since Congress established no discernible purpose or policy insofar as the issuance of these obligations is concerned, there is no standard by which the actions of the private system can be controlled. There are no rules, regulations, or procedures to be followed concerning the issuance of these FRNs, Federal Reserve Notes. There are no requirements for findings of fact regarding the issuance of FRNs, no administrative procedures such as public hearings and the opportunity to be publicly heard. The conveyance of congressional power to issue legal tender treasury notes to these banks was an outright gift to a very powerful, self-interested financial Jewish cartel, subject to no restraint or control by Congress. The Federal Reserve System was given unbridled power to expand or contract the quantity and worth of outstanding federal bills of credit. By the way, I added the word Jewish just so this guy, Mr. Robinson, doesn't have a canary. This legislation is unconstitutional for this very fact and was the first step in the complete takeover of the United States and the funding of the First World War. The Federal Reserve System was established just in time for the war. The system created all the credit needed to finance that war. They say it as if they just happened to have a war. Federal bonds were sold to the Federal Reserve Bank in exchange for credit to the government for federal bonds. These federal bonds, public promissory notes, became the basis upon which the Federal Reserve notes, private promissory notes, were issued. Okay, so public promises were used to borrow the private credit of the American people from the private, non-federal Federal Reserve Bank. And we're going to get into, hang in there. I know this is kind of torturous here. But what does this mean for us when they used our credit? So as the war progressed, the U.S. currency and credit supply greatly expanded, directly causing inflation. After the conclusion of the war, the Federal Reserve System intentionally contracted the currency supply. The Federal Reserve had demonstrated its ability to expand the currency supply. Now it was time to test its ability to contract it. And on May 18, 1920, a secret meeting of the Federal Reserve Board devised a criminal plan to severely damage the commerce of the United States, the agricultural industry in particular. During this meeting, plans were made to severely raise the reserve requirements and discount rate. The results were predictable, and agriculture and its support industries received a severe financial blow, all for the purpose of reducing food prices. And again, they make it the fault of the farmer or the businessman or, whatever industry they were aiming at. Great financial ruin resulted, and those who were damaged were without fault. Okay, that's the thing that we have to remember. The system proved to be efficient at contracting the money supply, thus laying the groundwork for the Great Depression. After this vicious and criminal currency contraction, the system began the inflationary policy that created the bubble of the Roaring Twenties. And again, it wasn't a prudent time period. It was lavish and it was risque. By 1926, 27, and 28, newspapers, bank officials, stockbrokers, and even the president and governors of the states praised the good times and encouraged people to enter the stock market because prosperity had now arrived. Isn't that something? They loosen the monetary strings, and people have money to spend. But during the spring and summer of 1929, plans similar to those devised on May 18, 1920, were seen to be operating. And on October 29, 1929, the speculation bubble caused by the inflationary policy of the Fed broke, and the Great Depression of our nation began. Fortunes are made by inflationary currency policies and contractional currency policies as well. The trick is to know when the effect of these policies will occur. Those in the know made fortunes during the Depression, complements of the system created and allowed by Congress. It's just like getting the Jew call that Mayor Koch and who's that other comedian there? I forgot what his name. Al Franken exposed. I got the Jew call. That was regarding 9/11 for those of you who aren't familiar with that. While the Great Depression was caused by the contraction of currency and credit, the Federal Reserve System had been given the ability to create credit without limit. The system withdrew credit from the private sector of our economy to cause the Depression, but between the collapse in October 1929 and June 1st, 1933, the Federal Reserve Bank's ability to create credit enabled it to use the private credit it stole from the American people to buy federal bonds redeemable in gold. By June 1st, 1933, the Federal Reserve System held virtually all of the United States gold bonds that were to mature between June 1st, 1933 and January 1st, 1934. Owning these bonds put the Federal Reserve in a position to dictate the fate of the nation to Congress, and these private, non-Federal Reserve banks did exactly that and have been doing so ever since. And again, we're going to end it there, but one of the reasons is because there was no Catholic voice. Okay, the church had been silenced. They were being attacked. The baptism was changed around this time. Lots of things were happening, and they lost their moral leadership, especially when it came for money. They have an obligation there as well. All right, so we'll continue tomorrow with this, and we'll roll through and get as quick as we can this history. But it's important to know how this system was set up in place so that we can unravel it, if you will, into a Catholic monarchy, and at the same time utilize the remedy that was given to us by this system to get us into that time period. All right, let me pick up my piece of paper I dropped, and then we'll begin with Mass. Who else has joined us? Oh, Denise. Good day, Denise and Rebecca. Let me slug some water. Deum vobiscum et quoque apotei. Oremus. O most holy Trinity, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, grant to the souls of thy servants and handmaids the remission of all their sins, that they may obtain by loving prayers the forgiveness which they have always desired, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Suscipe Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum hoc immaculatum hostium, quam ego indinius famulos tuus offeri tibi Deum meum vivum et verum, pro venum et ibidibus peccatis et offensionibus et negligentis meis, et pro omnibus circumstantibus, sed et pro omnibus fidelibus catholicorum vivis atque, defunctis ut mihi et iris proficiat et salutem. Deum qui humanae substantia dignitate mirabilito condidissi et mirabilis reformatio de nobis spiritus atque te ruini mysterium, eius divinitatis esse consortis qui militatis nostrae, fieri dinatis es paticeps Deum Iesum Christum Filium, qui tecum vivit et regnat, in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Offerimus tibi Deum calicem salutaris tuum da peccatis clementium, ut conspectu divinae majestatis tuae pro nostra et totius mundi salute, cum odore suavitatis ascendat. In spiritu humilitatis et in animo contrito suscipiam rate Deum Iesum Christum et fiat sacrificium nostrum et conspectu tu hodie, ut placeat tibi Deum matronam nostra Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Veni sanctificate, Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, et sanctificite blata prosequendo, et accepere hoc sacrificium tuo sanctum nomini praeparatum. Suscipe Sancta Trinitas Sancoblationum cum tibi efferimus, a memoriam passionis, resurrectionis et descensionis Deum Iesum Christum, et in honorem Deum matronam nostra et Papa Peter Sanctorum, et istorum et omnem Sanctorum, ut idis proficiat ad honorem, nobis autem et salutem et idi pro nobis intercede Deum inter caelis, quorum amorem agimus in tedis per Deum Christum Deum nostrum. Orate ut meum equestrum sacrificium accettable fiat per Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Suscipiat Deum Iesum Christum sacrificium de manibus tuis et laudam et gloriam nominis sui, ad utilitatem quoque nostram totiusque ecclesiae suae sanctae. Deum vobiscum, quoque apotei, sursum corda habemus ad Deum. Gratias agamus Deum nostrum, dignum et justum est. Te egitorum et esimi mater et pater et Deum matron nostra et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per Deum Iesum Christum Filium tuum Deum nostrae, supplicis rogamus et petimus. Uti accepta habeas et sanctificas, haec sanctam sacrificium illibata. In primis quae tibi efferimus pro ecclesiam tuum sanctam catholicam, quam pacificare custodire ad honore regere dignitis tot obiterarum atque catholicae. Memento Deum famulorum cetuorum. We pray for the sick and the suffering. We especially pray for Robert Dasco, Sr. and Jr., Louise Cantu, Katie Gage RM, Neil and Earl Lively, Marie Josephina Mose, Letitia, Mindy, Clarette, Mark Jr., Henry, Barbara, and Benedict Santa Croce, Mr. Nobody, the Cantu and Duarte families, Michaela McLarnon and family, Sarah and Becky, Jenna and Lena, Lori, Aaron and family, Maria and the Line River family, the Kendrick, Dasco, Narita, Forbigan, Wolf, and Kane families. We pray for Mr. Nobody to receive the funding and strength needed to complete the first Sede Vacantis Catholic Council office in Monastery of Illinois. We pray for an end to all governmental allowance or sanctioning of abortion, transgenderism, transhumanism, child trafficking, child abuse of any kind, anywhere, place, or time. We pray for the establishment of a Catholic monarchy with a sound Catholic system of labor, human value, medium of exchange with no usury. As we transition into a Catholic monarchy, we ask for courageous men to step forward as leaders of this Catholic society with an understanding of the correct monetary systems and being full of virtue. We ask that all pornography in the OnlyFans platform be stopped immediately. We ask that Yuval Harari have an awakening that can only be accomplished by a miracle, that he turns away from the WEF and condemns it and returns to the Most Holy Trinity in humility. We ask any demon that might be possessing him that he must leave, that it must leave. It cannot stay in any human. We also ask you to destroy the satanic document of the Vatican law that is the Jewish Talmud. We ask you to destroy Rome and the Vatican and recognize the authority of the Catholic Church to be in Fatima, Portugal. We ask you to release the souls controlled by the demons Lilith and Asmodeus and send them, those demons, back to hell. All this we ask in accordance with the Most Holy Trinity's divine will. Et omnium circumstantium quorum tibi fides cognita est nota devotio pro quibus tibi ferimus. Vel qui tibi offrunt hoc sacrificium laudis processuis omnibus. Pro redemptione animarum suarum pro spe salutis et calamitatis suae. Tibi credent vota sua aeterno Deum vivo et vero. Communicantes et mammonium honorantes in primis gloriosae semper Deum matronam nostrae et Deum Iesum Christum et beatorum martyrium tuorum Papa Sancta Petri et Sancti Luci et Sancti Jacinta et Sancti Francisco et Sancti Juan Diego et omnium sanctorum tuorum quorum meritis praecibusque cancedas ut in omnibus protectionis tuae monium et auxilio per Deum Christum Deum nostrum. Quam oblatione de Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum in omnium Deum consecratum ac captabulum quae feceri dignidis ut nobis corpum et sanguinem fieri dictissimi filium tuum Deum Iesum Christum. Qui pridie quam pateretor recepit panem in sanctis ac honorabilis manus suas. Et erivatis oculis in caelum ante Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum suum omnipotentem tibi gratias agens. Consecravit, frege didique lumis sui digens acipit te, et mandacate ex hoc omnes. Hoc est enim corpus meum. Simili modo postquam ceremonias cipienser hunc praeclarum caricem in sanctis ac honorabilis manus suas, idem tibi gratias agens Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, consecrave didique lumis sui digens acipit et vivite ex omnis. Hic est enim calix sanguinis mei mysterium fidei, quae pro nobis et pro multis effundetur in remissionem peccatorum, haeque tes cum purificeritis in me mono facietis. et memoris Deum nostrum virtui, sed plebs tua sancta justum Christum filium tuum Deum nostrae, tam beate passionis nec non et ab infelis resurrectionis, sed et in caelos gloriosa ascensionis offerimus, praeclarae maiestati tuae de tuis donis actatis, supra quae propitio axere novudor spicieri digneris. Supplices te regamos Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum ibe hec per manus tuum ut quod ex hoc autoris participationis sacrosanctum Deum Filium tuum, corpus et sanguinem sincerimus, omni sanctificatione caelestia gratia repeamur per Ienem Christum Deum nostrae. We pray for those who have died, and we especially pray for Lester Dawson, for whom this Mass is being offered. Ipsis Deum et omnibum in Christum quis gentibum locum refugiere illucis et pacis ut odorge est praecamur, per Ienem Christum Deum nostrum. Per quem hic omnia Deum Iesum Christum semper bono creas, sanctificas, vivicas, consecratis et praestas nobis. Per ipsum et cum ipso et in ipso, est tibi Deum Matrum omnipotentium in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, omnis honor et gloria. Ave Dea, Matronam Nostrae, gratia plena Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum tecum, sanctam tuum in mulieribus, Dea Matronam Nostrae, Matram Deum Iesum Christum, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Libera nos quae sumus Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum ab omnibus malis, praeteritis, praesentibus et futuris, et intercedente beata et gloriosa semper Deum Matronam Nostrae, cum Papa Petrum Sanctorum et omnibus sanctis da propitiis pacem in Deus nostris. Ut ope misericordiae tuae aduiti et peccato, simus semper liberi et ab omni perturbatione securi. Per Ienem Deum nostrum, Iesum Christum Filium tuum Deum nostrum, qui tecum vivit et reinat in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per aeternam. Pax Deum Iesum Christum sed semper vobiscum et quoque apud te. Haec mixtio consecratio corporis et sanguinis Deum Iesum Christum, fiat excipientibus nobis in ad salutem aeternam. Pax tecum et quoque apud te. Deum Iesum Christum, qui ex voluntate Deum Matronam Nostrae, cooperante Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum, per mortem tuam mundum vivificasti, libera me per hoc sacro sanctum corpus et sanguinum tuum ab omnibus iniquitatibus meis et universis malis, et fac me tui semper inhalare mandatis et numquam separare permittas, qui cum eo Deum Matronam Nostrae Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum vivis et reinam aeternam. Perceptio corporis tui Deum Iesum Christum quod ego indinius sumere praesumon omnihi proveniat in judicium condonationem, sed pro tu pietati prosit mihi ad tutum intimitis corporis et ad medelam percipiendam, qui vivis et reinas cum Deum Matronam Nostrae in unitate Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Panem calestum accipiem et nomen Deum Iesum Christum invocabo. Deum Matronam Nostrum non sunt dignus, ut intus et meis in tante di verbus nabitarum mea. Deum Iesum Christum non sunt dignus, ut intus et meis in tante di verbus nabitarum mea. Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum non sunt dignus, ut intus et meis in tante di verbus nabitarum mea. Corpus Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima mea. Quidro tubum Deum Iesum Christum per omnibus quaere tubut mihi, calicem salutaris accipiam in nomine Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum invocabo. Laudans invocabo Deam matronam nostrae, et ab inimicis mei salvos ero. Sanguis Deum nostrum Iesum Christum custodiet anima meam. Quod ore subsumus Deum Iesum Christum piedemente capiamus et immunum et tempore fit nobis remedium sempiternum. Corpus tuum Deum Iesum Christum quod sonse sanguis quem potare et hede et usquedibus meis apraesta, ut in me non remaniat scelera macula quem pura et sancta reficerunt sacramenta. Deum obiscum, et quoque pote, oremus. May the prayer of thy suppliants profit the souls of thy servants and handmaids who beseech thee, O most holy Trinity, that thou mayest free them from all sins, and make them sharers in thy redemption, who livest and reignest with thee, one divine family, forever and ever. Deum obiscum, et quoque pote, ite mise est, Deum gratia. Placia tibi sancta Trinitam obsequium servitutis meae, et praesta ut sacrificium corporis tuae maestatis in unus autoritibus et acceptabile mihique, et omnibus pro quibus idut feliciti miserante perpetuare per Christum Deum nostrum. Sanctificat vos omnipotens Deum matronam et filium et spiritum sanctum, Deum matronam nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. Gratias. O most holy Trinity, I believe, I venerate, I hope, and I love thee. I beg of thee pardon for those who do not believe, do not venerate, do not hope, and do not love thee. Most holy Trinity, Deum matronam nostrae, Deum Iesum Christum et Deum Patrum Spiritum Sanctum. I offer to thee the most precious body, blood, soul, and divinity of Deum Iesum Christum, present here in reparation for the outrageous, sacrilegious, and indifference by which he himself is offended, and through the infinite merits of his most sacred heart, the Immaculate Heart of Deum matronam nostrae, I beg of thee the conversion of poor sinners. In nomine Deum maternum nostra, et Deum Iesum Christum, et Deum Patrum, Spiritum Sanctum. Gracias. You are worthy. So take care of your health, your body. Eat good food, please. Hello, Peter. How are you? In the Apprentice film, Ed Koch was pretending to oppose Nixon's funding patrol. Ah, okay. Thank you. Yes, that was the thing, right? Yes. So I was just thinking about that. When people say they can't afford to buy good food, yes, you can. You are, especially if you're here and understand and ascend to this truth that is Our Lady is God.com. You are worthy, okay? You will be provided for. Take the steps slowly but surely, and you will see tremendous improvements in health, mind, body, and soul. Please go and sanctify all those who you meet. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Have a great day.